Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Musa Naib from Eritrea, and I'm presiding this meeting in my capacity as the first vice president in the absence of our president. Colleagues, I welcome you all to this very important meeting of our Committee of Social Affairs and the Environment, and I wish you good deliberation. May I take this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to thank the government and the people of Mozambique for the warm welcome and hospitality that they have extended to us. Then moving to the agenda that we have at hand. Yeah, before we start with the agenda, there are some announcements that the Secretariat wish to make. Please have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and good morning, honorable members. This is just to give an announcement on the proceedings of this morning. We do have a technical update. We are required by the interpreters to see, to observe three things. When you take the floor, the interpreters are asking that you make sure that your earphones are far away from the mic. Secondly, that the mics should be turned off immediately you finish speaking. There is an echo and the interpreters are not getting clear words of what you're saying out of that. And lastly, your mobile phones, if they can be far away from the mic, it will allow them to be able to hear you well. There is a lot of echo on for the interpreters. And the last announcement is really to send the apology of our Assistant Secretary General, who is currently in another official meeting and will not be in this meeting with you. He will be represented by the experts here this morning. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Secretariat. And I think everybody has got the message clear, and these announcements are very important for the proper functioning of our meeting. Thank you. Before I put forward to you the agenda, let me take to the first page of the agenda where there are slight typical errors, that's in agenda number 4. You can find number 4 in our agenda, where it says Committee on Political Affairs. That's a mistake. Please correct it to be Committee on Social Affairs and the Environment. I don't know if it's the same thing in French, but in the English version, there is a correction that needs to be made.
Também na versão francesa, mas na versão em inglês este é o erro que nós digitamos. Obrigado.
And now I put forward the agenda for today's
Para
meeting.
considerar a apresentação
The
da
agenda that we have is captured under ACP/23/056/22. We have all the agenda at hand.
Temos todos os pontos da agenda.
So I give the opportunity
Portanto,
for
dar a
the
oportunidade
delegates, they have any comments as regards the agenda so that we could accommodate
dar
your opinions. Is there any observation
se tem alguma observação
as regards the agenda that we have
da
today?
agenda para
Yes, please.
sim, tem a palavra.
Thank you very much,
Obrigado.
Acting President. Thank you for preparing the agenda, but just
Por ter a
an observation from when we met at France in last meeting. We made a plea for to have induction for members just coming in. So we made a plea that because in Parliament is complex institution all over the place, and Parliament, they all have their own procedures for every Parliament, they are not homogeneous. So because members are coming in new, I made a plea when we had the same committee meeting. And I said, we need to have an induction for new members. I will just take them on board. In fact, to understand even the numbering we have for the agenda, for new members coming, to be very difficult for them. So I am expecting that at this meeting we shall have done, or for this particular conference, the 61st conference, we shall have an induction for new members of ACP. 2, I'm expecting that in this committee meeting also, we need to know ourselves. New members coming. Some of us, we are old, but it's also good to know ourselves who are coming, because anytime we meet as ACP, we are having new members coming in. This is a different parliament. It's always good we know ourselves and try to change this old system of just looking at agenda and not talking about induction. Induction is key, and I made a plea. So I don't know what is wrong with induction. I saw it on the agenda at a particular point in time, and they removed it. And they said it can be discussed at a future date. The future date we have not seen. So I'm making a plea again, sir, that we try as best as we can, because there are more complex situations coming. We are talking about post-Cotonou agreement. We need induction for members. And at this meeting, I plead that we need to know the new members so we can better interactions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Do you have any comments to make as regards the 2 points that have been raised?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to you all. The issue of induction, yes, was on the agenda, but it was rescheduled. And I think before the end of the meeting, we should be able to give you additional information, especially on the 2 points that you have raised. So if you allow, maybe we can proceed, and then we will come back to the points that you have raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretariat. Any other observation? So if I see, if we don't have any observations as regards the first item regarding the agenda, including the corrections that I have made, then shall I say that the agenda is adopted and proceed looking into it item by item? Thank you. As regards item number 2, statement from the chair, colleagues, I have no comments to make, additional comments that other the comments that we have already made. So we'll proceed to item number 3. We'll be looking into the summary record of the previous meeting captured in ACP/23/057/22. The summary record of our special meeting of 3rd of March that was conducted in Strasbourg is presented, as I have said, in the document mentioned above. If you have any comments on the record. Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure I'm also new talking about the induction affairs, but in Strasbourg was my first meeting. The number of these names which appear is record of attendance. Our names are not there, but we attended and submitted forms. I'm from Zimbabwe. My colleague is from Zimbabwe. I don't know how many are missing, but the names are not there.
Thank you. The Secretariat will take note of it. Any other comments? Yes, please.
I think it's the same. They just need to look at the attendance again. It's the same. We attended the meeting, and so we just ask that if such problems arising, that let the secretary just take note and see how best they can amend the minutes again. Thank you.
Even the name of your acting president is not present there. I've already made that correction to be made. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, please.
Yeah, Mr. President, the same goes for Malawi. We had about 6 members of parliament who form part of the delegation. The only one that's appearing as a record of attendance. So please, that can be corrected.
Thank you. Again, the secretariat will take care of it. Any other comments? Yes, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais dire la même chose concernant la délégation du Niger. Quand je parcours moi-même en tant que chef de délégation, je ne fais pas partie de la liste. Donc, il y a lieu, on va faire parvenir la liste, comme ça le secrétaire va prendre ça en compte. Merci.
Yes, please.
Merci, Président. Mais c'est pour faire les mêmes remarques et j'espère que vous prendrez en compte le document, les fiches de présence ici pour essayer de pallier à ce problème. Merci.
I'm missing translation, sorry. Did you get it?
Yes, it's the same comment.
Okay.
It's the same comment. I think even Gambia. Gambia was.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much. Mr. President, it's the same observation on the attendance list. The Gambia also have a delegation of 5 and only 3 is captured on the attendance list. So I want to observe, probably it's an error from the secretary so that they can correct that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gambia. The same mistake is being done. Okay. Any other observation? Yes, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Acting President. Mine is different, not about attendance anymore. But I remember, though we are at Strasbourg, we are so stressed because of the COVID change of some of us having AstraZeneca, others were having vaccines. So when we went to the meeting, most of us were hot-headed. I remember when we were discussing the climate change, I still remember when we were discussing climate change, the issue of financing came up, but the issue of ICJ, International Court of Justice, was also mentioned by a member. Since I'm seeing these missing of names and the attendance, I also believe that even yesterday, when we had a presentation from one of the panelists talking about the International Court of Justice that has to do with climate change, going after the big countries that are polluting the environment, that are also responsible for the climate change. I remember a colleague talked about, I don't know, Salah, another colleague, we are talking about having the International Court of Justice, how we can use other institutions. Remember, we are talking about IPU, bringing them on board or other institutions so that bigger countries can be levy penalties that are hugely responsible for the emission of pollution of the climate. So I'm not seeing it, I've read it. If you go back to item 3, the climate change crisis. But I don't know if you can check the minutes, but I can remember that somebody mentioned about the ICJ. Thank you.
Thank you. First, let me recognize the presence of our president here with us. Really, you are most welcome, Mr. President. As regards the comment made by Sierra Leone, I pass the floor to the Secretariat to give their feedback on it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me respond on the issue of the induction process. The Secretariat had made arrangement for that process, that meeting to take place on the first day of your meetings. Unfortunately, at the last minute, the speaker we had invited to address that meeting could not make it due to other flight cancellations that could not allow him to get here on time. And there was not any other possibility for him to take another slot out of our meetings. The intention was to have this session just before the meetings begin and not in between the meetings, so that our members would be able to understand the process when the meetings take place. We have again consulted with him, and there is now a proposal to have that session take place on two ways. Either at the meeting to take place virtually by regions, so that we take account of the time differences, and he'll be able to address parliamentarians for those regions and take them through the process of procedures for the assembly. There is another proposal to also have this meeting take place during your March intersessional meetings, again, right before all the meetings begin. We wish to have this session always take place before the meetings commence, before the official meetings commence. So we have those two proposals we're still considering with the speaker, who we believe is very well equipped to address the assembly on those processes. And we will update members as soon as we have the full information. On the update on the minutes, we've taken note and we'll get those corrected as proposed. Thank you.
Secretariat. So we move to item 3, the summary record for special meeting. I've mentioned it. Are there any comments that members want to present? Next item. If there is no, yes, please.
Merci, Président. Je voudrais avoir une précision, c'est pour savoir s'il s'agit de discuter du point 3, crise liée au changement climatique.
Excuse me, sir. Will you please repeat your comments? I didn't get the translation.
Et je vous remercie, je reprends, Président. Je voudrais savoir si le point qui est en examen concerne le point 3, notamment la crise liée au changement climatique. Juste pour m'assurer.
Yes, sir. The issue of climate change is present in page 1. And if you want to bring any issue, other important issues, that will be accommodated.
Merci, Président. Je voudrais seulement savoir si on pouvait faire le commentaire par rapport à ce point précis.
Yes, please.
Je vous remercie, Président. Sur la... C'est bon? OK. Sur la question de la crise liée au changement climatique, le compte rendu m'honore quant à ce qui concerne les points mis en évidence. Je voudrais rappeler l'attention de chacun de nous sur la nécessité non seulement de porter à l'attention de la communauté internationale les incidences et les conséquences sur notre pays, mais surtout de rappeler les engagements de ces pays. Parce que j'ai l'impression qu'on reste beaucoup plus sur le discours et les engagements ne tiennent pas. Et on nous pousse vers le financement divers qui hypothèque le développement de nos ressources. Alors, je voudrais que sur ce point, puisque la COP27 aura lieu au mois de novembre en Égypte, que nous puissions d'une même voix mettre l'accent sur ces questions de manière à ce que ces engagements-là soient précis et soient évalués et qu'on ait un chronogramme de mise en œuvre. Voilà ce que je voudrais rappeler. Merci.
Thank you. I will take note of it. Then we're moving to page 2 on the summary record if you have any other comments to make. Then shall we move to page 3 if you don't have any comment on page 2, page 3. And we have taken note of what you have already mentioned under this list, the names that are missing will be taken care of. If there is any other additional, yes, please.
Yes, sorry to take you aback. I know I have tremendous respect for your secretariat. I know because after the COVID, we are finding it difficult to settle down. Just as when we are in Strasbourg, we had problem with our colleagues on the EU side. I did mention in that presentation about Parliament. That's what we did in taking, because yes, but because we said we gave out a guiding principles. How do we also control ourselves, even putting some staff on leave, voluntary leave, so that we can maintain the social distance in terms of COVID. So in that meeting, we are saying, that takes me to the topic in page 2, the role of Parliament on control of pandemic, particularly COVID-19. I will be talking about having strong legislations, having robust legislation, and looking at our health sector. I went as far as talking about the guidelines that we put in place for staff and calling members of Parliament, and we even talk about introducing the virtual methods, which was very difficult for us to do. But even the state opening, which I mentioned that Parliament gave out some guidelines to all members, everybody. So we decided to present that one in that meeting at Strasbourg, so members can copy and members can know that in as much as we are not that equipped to handle the COVID, but we are able as Parliament to put in place our own legislations so that members can keep themselves safe and maintain the social distancing. I just bring it to your notice that a lot was discussed on that matter. The summary here given to us, I can understand. But for the records, you can also capture that one for us. For the role of Parliament, much was discussed. The summary here did not capture most of what we said in the meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sir Leon. We'll take note of it. If there is no any other comments, we will adopt a summary record with the comments that have been made. Thank you. So we'll proceed to item 4. I now put forward for the consideration of the committee, the items on the agenda of the meeting of ACP Committee 3 to be held on Sunday, 30 October 2022, from 13 hours to 16 hours as presented in the document OJ AP 103.280 V0100. Are there any additions or deletion to the agenda which we wish to propose to our EU counterparts? I see no hands raised. Yes, please.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. I think it is suitable to discuss the idea of resources and financing, because we know that climate change is a huge problem right now. It's a global priority. And I think the developed countries, which mainly the polluters in the world, should be put responsible and make enough resources available to restore anything that is got damaged. And especially lots of countries in ACP don't have the resources to act accordingly. So I think that should be put on the agenda separately to discuss this idea. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll take note of that. Yes, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Lors de notre congrès au niveau à Kigali, nous avons posé le problème du lait en poudre qui est vendu aux pays africains. Ce lait a été dépossédé des matières grasses et auxquelles on a ajouté des matières grasses d'origine végétale. Il paraît que ça pose des problèmes de santé, et durant notre conférence à Kigali, nous avions posé, il y avait des ONG qui avaient posé avec des parlementaires européens et africains ce problème. Pourquoi on continue à exporter ces laits en poudre dans la mesure où on a constaté qu'il a des problèmes de santé? Est-ce que je suggère à ce qu'on mette un point concernant ce point à l'ordre du jour, parce que ça pose des problèmes de santé publique au niveau de nos populations. C'est vrai, les populations peuvent souffrir un peu de la faim, mais si on leur envoie un produit normalement qui doit être sain au niveau, ils sont obligés de le consommer. Donc, est-ce qu'il y a des mesures qui ont été prises dans ce sens? Au niveau je n'ai pas eu l'occasion d'assister à nos séances passées. Est-ce que durant ces séances, à cause du Covid notamment, est-ce que des mesures ont été prises parce qu'il y avait un engagement ferme de la part des ACP et Union européenne d'étudier ce problème? Merci.
Thank you, Mauritania. Yeah. Rina?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Yes, of course, we do have to do a lot more in our developing nations in the OACPS, of course, in the light of climate change and in the light of doing a lot more for our environment. But, Mr. Chair, I think we have to stress more, and we all know who are the big polluters in the world. Who are the big polluters? We have to stress that the highly industrialized countries are the biggest polluters. And we need to demand of them, we need to put highly on the agenda that they do a lot more to reduce their pollution, to what is to pollute our planet. They need to take actions to do that. In the light of that, we suffer a lot as developing countries of the climate change, the negative consequences of the climate change. We developing nations, we suffer a lot, but they are the polluters. In the light of our food security, and we demand that we ask them more to take actions. As my colleague said, they promise a lot of financing. It's only verbal and promises, but we need to stick by their promises, and to that they have to come out and take actions. I thank you for your attention of you and my colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bahamas.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you for your proper conducting of this meeting. I just wanted to underscore the sentiments of my fellow CARICOM sister nation, in that we need to add the access to financial mechanisms and instruments to this meeting. But also, I do believe that we should also enhance it and bring to the EU delegation explanations or request explanations as far as financial designations. What we would have seen as developing nations, a consistent blacklisting that impacts each and every one of our economies, coupled with the fact that we're already negatively impacted by natural disasters that decimate our GDP. We then find ourselves at this, I would say, vulnerable spot, as we're now blacklisted by the various delegation financial bodies. So I think that that should also be added as well.
Botswana, do you want to take the floor on this issue?
My apologies, Mr. Chairman. I believe my issue is at item 3. I think, but right now we're discussing, we've invited the House to offer any additional items that they wish to place on the agenda of our joint meeting with the EU. But I am on the agenda for item number 3. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, colleagues, all the issues that are related to the climate change will be considered in the resolutions that we have. And we look forward that you bring your amendments so that we could develop the resolution at hand. Thank you. Yes, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I agree with you partially, because you asked us if we had any amendments on the agenda. And I had suggestions for the agenda. And I agree with you in the context of climate change, we will make comments. That's one. But I want to put an extra agenda point. That was my issue, Mr. President. So please take that into account, because to have on the paper that are marginal issues that will be in the line of the paper, but I am above the line of the paper. I want to make an extra agenda point. That was my issue, Mr. President. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, we'll propose that with our colleagues when we discuss that issue. Thank you. Yes, colleagues, we have taken note of the suggested points for the agenda, and we'll consider it in the joint together with our colleagues. Now I will move to item number 2. I have no other announcements from my side. Is there any issue members may wish to announce during our joint meeting? If there is any other comments, then we move to item number 3. Colleagues, under this item, we will consider an exchange of view with Mr. Jean Todat, UN Special Envoy for Road Safety, and Ms. Seneka Henry, Head of the United Nations Road Safety Fund, on the draft report on the strengthening parliamentary solidarity and political will for road safety in member countries of the OACP and EU, including safe infrastructure, as presented in document DRA 103.283 V01/00. Our co-rapporteur on this report is Ms. Eunice Doe from Botswana, whom I now invite to present the draft. You have the floor, Ms. Doe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the floor, and allow me from the onset to express our gratitude for the opportunity to co-rapporteur this report on this very important topic on strengthening parliamentary solidarity and political will for road safety in members countries of the OACPS and the EU, including safe infrastructure. We take this opportunity for Botswana to play a key role in addressing this very important and challenging issue. I am pleased that the Bureau agreed to address this issue and to bring in the voice of parliamentarians who must work together at both national and international level to reinforce our commitment and political will to address road safety challenges. Honorable members, globalization, interconnectedness, and population growth are the defining issues of our time. Over the last few decades, they have led to a significant rise in human activities, particularly the movement of goods and people. The surge in the number of vehicles is unfortunately reflected in a growing and worrying increase in the number of road accidents and their consequences, which consequences include loss of life. Despite technological advances and efforts to take preventive measures, road traffic injuries remain the leading cause of death worldwide, particularly among children and young people aged between 5 and 29. It is estimated that road accidents account for 1.35 million deaths and around 50 million injuries per year. There's also a link between the level of development and road safety. More than 90% of fatal crashes occur in low and middle income countries, and their victims include vulnerable road users such as pedestrians, cyclists, and motorcyclists. In this regard, road safety is a serious public issue. International community has taken up this scourge by making strong commitments in the framework of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement. Road safety has indeed become one of the World Health Organization's priorities, with SDG 3.6, aiming to halve the number of road traffic deaths and injuries by 2030. Colleagues, Africa is currently experiencing the highest per capita rate of fatal fatalities in the world. The World Health Organization estimates the rate of road traffic deaths at 24.1 per 100,000 people in Africa, in comparison to 18.5 in Asia and 10.3 in Europe. The problem is set to worsen. According to projections by WHO, road fatalities in sub-Saharan Africa will increase by 112% from approximately 243,000 in 2015 to 514 in 2030. The socio-economic impact of road traffic accidents continue to harm the continent's development, affecting the livelihoods of many. Several African countries have recognized the magnitude of the problem and are developing strategies and plans to address this challenge at national level, in line with the commitments made in SDG Target 3.6 and 11.2. In this regard, every country must gain a better understanding of the various factors that contribute to the problem, including technical, institutional, legal, policy, and other related issues. Recognizing the gravity of road safety challenges in Africa, heads of state and government adopted the Africa Road Safety Action Plan of 2011 to 2022, and the African Road Safety Charter that became part of the building block for the establishment of the Decade of Action for Road Safety 2011-22 by the United Nations. Signatory states have committed to the obligation of the Charter, which seeks to accelerate the implementation of national, regional, and continental road safety programs, contribute to the coordination of road safety across Africa, and facilitate the formulation of comprehensive road safety policies at national level. Let me comment on the Caribbean and the Pacific road safety situation. The Caribbean is categorized as one of the most urbanized regions based on its economic growth, increase in the number of cars and motorbikes owners. This leads to a high levels of motorization, resulting in greater risks, including increased levels of pollution and congestion in cities, which affect lives and safety. The Pacific has a lower regional rate of 8 deaths per 100,000 population. The region reports, though, half of fatal injuries are road traffic related, caused by motorization. Studies have also identified vehicle type as a cause of road traffic injuries, citing increased risk of crashes involving buses and open commercial vehicles as compared to cars. Despite the specificities of the situation at national levels, members of OACP face common road safety challenges, such as the importation of unsafe, poorly maintained, and variable use second-hand vehicles, insufficient training, and inappropriate behavior of road users, such as texting while driving and driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, recklessness, such as the absence of or non-use of seat belts, non-use of car seats for young children, non-use of helmets for motorists, and law enforcement of traffic rules. The complexity of road safety issues calls for a multidimensional and holistic approach. It is therefore important to design policies that protect our citizens. The OACP will endeavor to engage on this topic, put it on its agenda, and put it on the agenda of the summit, and more particularly on the agenda of the Youth Forum that will be coming soon in Angola. This engagement will provide a political momentum needed to promote implementation of international commitments. The resolution before us is a preliminary draft that calls for not only input that will enrich it with strong recommendations for action for both OACP and EU level, but sensitize leaders of our assemblies to prioritize road safety and have it at the center of our work. I thank you for your attention. Let the debate begin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lowe, for that excellent presentation, which captures the essence of the whole draft resolution that we have. So now I open the floor to members to make their contributions to these draft resolutions that have been presented. Thank you. Cameroon, you have the floor, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, de nous donner la parole. Je voudrais d'abord vous remercier pour la parole donnée et de féliciter ma voisine, le rapporteur de cette commission, sur les problèmes que posent nos routes et nos infrastructures. Et je m'en vais compléter ce document que je soutiens effectivement par l'expérience camerounaise. Et vous savez que dans notre pays, le Cameroun, les accidents de la route constituent une préoccupation majeure. Il est enregistré près de 16 500 accidents par an. Et cette situation se dégrade avec l'augmentation du trafic routier, car il n'y a pas beaucoup de transport de masse et les dégâts humains, les vies perdues et les dégâts sur l'économie camerounaise sont très, très importants. Près de 100 milliards de CFA par an. Et c'est pour cela que je soutiens cette résolution, pour pouvoir justement apporter quelques éclaircies qui pourraient conforter ce rapport-là. Et vous allez voir qu'au niveau du Cameroun, nous venons de ratifier la Charte africaine de sécurité routière. La signature de documents interviendra dans un proche avenir. Sur le plan national, sans être exhaustif, le Cameroun a pris des mesures sur les conditions d'importation des véhicules d'occasion. Au niveau du Parlement, il y a la création de réseaux de parlementaires sur la sécurité routière. Au niveau du gouvernement, on procède à la sécurisation du processus de délivrance des documents de transport, c'est-à-dire permis de conduire et immatriculation de véhicules. Et on organise de manière permanente la sensibilisation de sécurité routière. En plus, l'utilisation des TIC, technologies d'information et de communication, pour améliorer la performance de sécurité routière à travers les contrôles radars, caméras de surveillance et les ceintures de sécurité dans les cas de transport public. On a renforcé le contrôle routier et actuellement, on est en train d'élaborer un projet de loi sur la sécurité routière. Voilà à peu près ce que nous faisons dans notre pays et qui pourrait compléter, Madame le co-rapporteur, votre document. Et ces actions conjuguées ont permis significativement de réduire le nombre de victimes d'accidents sur les routes camerounaises. En effet, on est parti de 6 000 tués en 2011 et ce nombre est passé à 623 en 2021. Donc, il y a eu une embellie et je crois que cette expérience-là pourrait renforcer les éléments des parlementaires que nous sommes ici. Merci, co-rapporteur. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Cameroon, for the contributions that you have made, as well as I would like to congratulate you for the success that you have made in your country and all the achievements and the combined efforts that you are doing, and I look forward for more success in your country. Thank you. Mozambique.
Obrigado, presidente do nosso comitê, e bem-vindos a Moçambique. Eu quero associar-me ao colega do Camerun para saudar a Honorable Doe, que é a relatora nossa dos ACPs, da Organização dos Estados ACP, para, em conjunto com os nossos colegas eurodeputados, apresentarmos e discutirmos esta resolução. O fenômeno de segurança rodoviária é uma matéria presente, pertinente. No caso concreto de Moçambique, a mortalidade nas estradas constitui já matéria de saúde pública. Por causa para além da destruição de infraestruturas, mas tem causado morte e dor. Por isso, nós queremos apoiar no seu conteúdo esta resolução, e ao longo do processo poderemos dar alguns mais elementos que possam melhorar aquilo que é a vontade política dos nossos governos para juntos encontrarmos mecanismos eficazes para prevenir acidentes de viação. Obrigada.
Thank you, Mozambique, for the support that you have given, and we look forward to your contribution as you have promised it. Thank you. Sierra Leone have for.
Thank you, Mr. Co-President. Thank you, Madam Presenter. Your topic was really touched by the analysis you gave, taking into consideration a very short moment, gave a detail to us, which captured the minds of most of us, talking about Africa having the highest fatality, gave the percentage of that, and came as far as the Pacific with the lower death rates of road safety. But she was more specific on legislation policies. We're talking about how do we enforce the laws? Talking about those who drive under influence of alcohol or other drugs related. And Africa, specifically in my country, the enforcement is really the challenge for us. And today, road safety networks, they are giving a high percentage in terms of death rate. It's not a joke, it's a reality. They give you data at the end of every year, you will see the death rate an increase, especially the invent of the mobile network, the social media. Most people are driving using their WhatsApp or social media networks. It's very dangerous. But if you check what is the critical cause of that is enforcement. We need to train special personnel. For example, in Sierra Leone, we have the road safety, we call the traffic wardens. You can see them in the streets. We also have the traffic, the police officers on the streets. But still people continue to commit crime. The accidents are so high, especially during the main roads linking to the provincial towns. So it's a very big issue for us, especially those in Africa, because we lack the enforcement. Sometimes we don't need to play magic. We need to look at our laws to have strong legislations. But even though you have strong legislation, as the right state stated, you have to look at enforcement of those legislations. There are things that someone can do when you're in part of Africa. When you go to the Western world, they don't do it because the law is really enforced. So we need to take that into consideration, that in as much as we are fighting for road safety, we need to make sure that our laws must be enforced and train our police personnel, those who are in charge of traffic. My colleague from Cameroon touched on one thing that I think we need to take into consideration at ACP. He talked about parliamentary network and on road safety. It's very good. So we can compare We can look at the regional cooperation. We can look at how parliaments relate to one another in terms of road safety, because our lives are very matter. Because we are representing people, democracy is about people. So if we say democracy is about people, we must make sure that we parliamentarians are involved. We are here because our people voted in. So we are called honorable members of people's representatives. So I agree with you, colleague from Cameroon, that the network of parliamentarians, if ACP can champion that one, can be good for all of us. And finally, I want to commend Madam for a good presentation given to us. We are so keen in maintaining the road safety networks, but also what do we need to do? She talked about the African leaders put together the African role for chapter for road safety. How far have we gone in ratifying those documents? How far have we gone in domesticating the document? Sometimes heads of state just sign. We don't ratify them. We don't domesticate them. Even when we ratify them, we keep them in the shell. When we ratify them, we make use of them, we domesticate them. And there comes in Madam's submission to us, enforcement, robust laws, etc., etc. Policies are good if and only if we enforce them. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam, for your good presentation.
Thank you, Sierra Leone. Indeed, the road safety issue is a big challenge, not only in your country, in all of us, in most of African countries. And the other problem that you have raised is well taken, that the issue is in the enforcement and the international and regional instruments that need to be domesticated and ratified. Thank you for that. Mauritius, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, the co-rapporteur. Though I'm not, thank you, President, for giving the floor, though I'm not a member of this committee. I know it's because it's an important one. I wanted to speak on it. And when we are talking about road safety, we also need to because there's thing that is interrelated is it concerns infrastructure and the access for us to ameliorate our infrastructure, upgrade our infrastructure to finance is also one thing that we need to take care of and to see how we can access this finance to make our infrastructure better. Another thing is that which is interrelated to road safety is the drivers. Sometimes we don't think about drugs that are being taken, people that are drunk, and these are causing so many accidents. This is something that we need to take care of also, and I think we could see how we have the laws like my colleague, Honorable Matthew, just mentioned it from Sierra Leone, but the implementation of these laws. I want to give the example of Mauritius. Mauritius, what we are doing now with regards to road safety, we have upgraded our local transport system, the public transport system with metro. We have a metro system now, which brings out more safety to our passengers using it. And we have strengthened the law with regards to drugs, and also for the drivers, those who are taking synthetic drugs or marijuana or any drugs while driving, because for alcohol, you already have tests that is being done. We have changed our law so that we can get these drivers also so that they don't cause harm, because losing a family member or any close one is so difficult for anyone. So I congratulate the co-rapporteur for this resolution, and I think we can make some big points with European Union and with our in the GPA when we are going to talk on this point. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mauritius. Suriname, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would compliment the co-rapporteur with her excellent presentation. Next to that, on the content, I welcome a holistic approach on this matter. And that means, among other things, that as a consequence of the rising of the sea level, we in a lot of small developing countries, we have an extra challenges. The traditional routes with a lot of money and etc. mobilizing, we had good roads. But as a consequence of the rising of the sea level, for example, Suriname and Guyana, but let me speak about Suriname, about 2/3 of our population is now under attack in the regions. So we have to move our total infrastructure. And that means in this aspect, road safety, etc., next to the judicial and other aspects. And as my colleague said, we need to mobilize a lot of fund to construct new roads, new connections, etc., etc. That's why we stress on the matter of the verbal promises on the consequences of the, how you say, the climate changes, the verbal promises that the big polluters would mobilize funds, but it's only verbal promise until now. And we need to put our hands harder on the table that they come and put the money where the pocket, how you call it, it is. Where the mouth is. Thank you, Mr. President. And in this light, we have, as a OACP, we must unite and together with each other, we have to be strongly advocate this matter. Thank you so much. And my colleague will join me in this.
Yes, please allow me, Mr. Chair, to make an addition. I think we are one subject that is probably a little underexposed is the issue of awareness. And I think something like traffic and road education is very important to raise the awareness among the general society. We in Suriname, we had likewise a program just for young people from 7 or 8 years above, where a highly skilled police officer comes on the television and he explains everything about the traffic. That was just to make them aware of the traffic, the threats in the traffic and so on. And I think that is a very good idea because we can make law enforcement and everything. But if the awareness of the threats of the traffic is not there, we will have victims a lot more. So please, maybe we can elaborate on that by some professional on this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contributions, and the points are well taken. Côte d'Ivoire, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le
So
Président.
it's Gambia.
It's Gambia?
Côte d'Ivoire? Okay. Côte d'Ivoire.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Côte d'Ivoire voudrait intervenir pour apporter une contribution donc, à ce débat. Je voudrais remercier Madame le rapporteur pour la qualité du rendu, pour dire aussi que ce sur quoi il faut mettre l'accent, c'est la promotion aussi des véhicules électriques. La promotion des véhicules électriques pour que d'une pierre on fasse deux coups et pour lutter contre donc, la pollution et donc les émissions de gaz à effet de serre, parce que le secteur transport a été identifié comme un secteur émetteur de gaz à effet de serre. Donc, la promotion des véhicules électriques pourrait donc nous aider à ce niveau. Mais en même temps, vu que pour le moment, leurs vitesses sont assez limitées, ça pourrait aussi contribuer à réduire le nombre d'accidents, parce qu'en Afrique surtout, nous avons constaté que la majorité des accidents, c'est aussi dû à la vitesse excessive. Mais il y a un autre volet qu'il faudrait prendre en compte, Monsieur le Président, c'est d'une manière générale, les pays OACP, et notre mal, c'est la corruption. Principalement en Afrique, c'est le cas que je connais le mieux. Et la corruption fait partie des maux qui minent notre continent. Et le secteur du transport n'échappe pas à cela. Et c'est pour cela qu'il faut dématérialiser les méthodes de verbalisation. En Côte d'Ivoire aujourd'hui, nous avons la vidéo-verbalisation qui fait que vous ne pouvez pas corrompre un agent parce que celui qui vous verbalise, vous ne le voyez pas. Vous êtes en train de rouler, si vous êtes en excès de vitesse, si vous n'avez pas respecté la priorité dans une intersection, si vous n'avez pas pris la ceinture de sécurité, vous êtes vidéo-verbalisé et vous recevez un message sur votre mobile phone et qui vous permet d'aller payer le jour où vous allez passer la visite technique. Si vous ne payez pas directement par méthode dématérialisée, le jour où vous allez passer la visite technique, mais vous allez trouver l'ardoise qui vous attend, la facture qui vous attend et vous êtes obligé de payer. Cela évite la corruption parce que quelquefois, avant cela, quand l'agent de police vous arrête, vous lui donnez un billet de banque et puis vous passez. Maintenant, cela n'est pas possible parce que le système est dématérialisé et vous êtes verbalisé par quelqu'un que vous ne voyez pas. Voilà. Donc, moi, je voudrais inciter nos partenaires à nous aider à moderniser ces secteurs-là pour que les verbalisations se fassent de façon dématérialisée. Ça nous permettrait d'avoir, en tout cas, beaucoup d'économies en plus. Mais il y a aussi les permis à points en Côte d'Ivoire aujourd'hui. Vous avez un permis de conduire, vous avez un certain nombre de points. À chaque infraction, vous perdez des points. Et quand vous arrivez à 0, vous n'avez plus le droit de conduire une voiture jusqu'à ce que vous repassez le permis de conduire. Et ça, c'est une mesure qui peut dissuader les gens dans la mauvaise conduite. C'est ce que je voulais apporter comme contribution. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Côte d'Ivoire. The next speaker is Gambia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Co-Rapporteur, for this resolution. Equally, I wanted to add my voice on the subject, that is the debate on the resolution, Honorable President. I just wanted to highlight, because my colleague from Sierra Leone said something that really amazed. That is the issue of having a network, parliamentary network, to be able to bring on legislations that are going to be suitable for the road traffic safety. Mr. President, you'll be amazed to note that Gambia, on statistic between 2020 and 2021, recorded about 787 road accidents. And this is alarming. And this is as a result of perhaps the poor road network that we have in our country, and as well as the legislation that are not being enforced. And this is across Africa. What I wanted to highlight is we need to recognize the repertoire stated in the resolution that we need to have the network between parliaments so that we can have legislations that will help both countries to be able to save the citizens from all these road accidents. One of the issues also that I wanted to highlight is, perhaps in my country perspective, is the age bracket that people usually have license to be able to drive. Sometimes it's also a problem that people will be driving on the road without the required, following the required processes. This is also happening. So I think strict law enforcement policies will definitely help countries to be able to, do away with these traffic road accidents. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gambia, for that specific suggestion. Is well taken. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson, for giving me the opportunity to add my voice to these very important topics. It is something that Kenya is also grappling with. And I think the suggestion that's been made in my country is that we use technology to boost enforcement of traffic regulations. And one of them is to have cameras that pick people up so that there is no human intervention with the police officers. Because usually during the intervention with the police officers are able to be compromised by the motorist, and so the motorists get away with it. So, but with the camera, it will not, it cannot be compromised. Also, one of the other suggestions that has been made, and I have a petition in Parliament in relation to it, where I'm suggesting that all police officers who are having any interactions with the public should have body cameras so that we are able to police the police while they are policing, because that has been the challenge. The issue is to have very severe consequences for failure to adhere to traffic regulations. If you see countries that have been successful in this, is places like the US, where the consequences are so high, such that your insurance will become more expensive if you have more traffic offenses. You will not be able to get a license, and you only get 2 warnings. And on the 3rd time that you commit an offense, you actually have a custodial sentence. So it is extremely dire not to abide by these traffic regulations. And I think that is a challenge that we are facing. That's why we keep saying enforcement is not possible, but we've got to use a different methodology. On the issue of climate change, there has to be political and financial consequences on those polluting countries. And I like the idea that is being fronted by the team that came from Vanuatu, yes, Vanuatu, where they were saying we go for an advisory opinion to the ICJ. That's a concrete action that will be successful. And thank you, Chair. And I must thank the Member of Parliament for Botswana for bringing this motion along. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. And I wish you success in the draft resolution that you have, that you will be forwarding to the Parliament. Policing the police is very important, the experience. Thank you for that. Zimbabwe have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me also join those who have spoken before me and comment the excellent report, which has been presented by the co-rapporteur from Botswana. I just wish to make 2 very quick points. Besides the issue of enforcement of traffic laws, which have been made, I want to commend Kenya for the part they have made in terms of perhaps making it mandatory for policemen and people who deal with the public to wear body cameras. That will go a long way in reducing the corruption which is witnessed in the issue of enforcement of traffic laws. I think one of the issues which we need to be very serious about is the issue of a regulation in the importation of second-hand vehicles. In this part of the world, and in particular in Africa, we have seen a surge of importation of second-hand vehicles. Most or some of the vehicles which are being imported are not necessarily roadworthy, and their lifespan when they arrive in our countries is so short to the extent that people use them at their own peril. I therefore urge our governments to look at the issue of regulation and ensuring that the vehicles, second-hand vehicles, which are being imported are roadworthy. Secondly, I think one of the biggest challenges again in this part of the world, in the Southern Hemisphere, perhaps even in the North, is the issue of urban planning, town planning. Rural and urban planning is lacking in this part of the world. We only react when we have got huge amounts of traffic. We start reacting as to how we can make traffic flow more evenly. I think we need long-term planning in infrastructure. We need to plan well ahead before we experience huge amounts of cars coming into our countries. And in this regard, we also need to have access to resources. Infrastructure development can only be done when you have got loans which are soft. It's difficult to develop infrastructure with your own resources. You crowd out the private sector. You mop up resources in the economy, which are supposed to be used by the private sector. We therefore need to have soft loans, loans which can be made available by the World Bank, IFC, IDA, which are concessionary, so that we build infrastructure which is comparable, second to none in terms of standards, just like they are doing in Europe. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Guinea, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, nous adhérons à la présentation de co-rapporteurs. Au niveau de la République de Guinée, les nouvelles autorités ont pris les dispositions. Mais avant, il convient de souligner que la législation a bien évolué dans notre pays. Nous avons adopté en 2016 la loi sur la sécurité routière. Ensuite, en 2020, nous avons adopté la loi sur la protection des infrastructures routières. Actuellement, nous sommes en train de faire la biométrie au niveau des permis de conduire parce qu'il a existé dans le temps que les enfants dans notre pays, il y a des gens qui n'avaient pas l'âge d'avoir les permis de conduire ou encore des personnes âgées également qui n'avaient pas les aptitudes nécessaires pour conduire et des permis à leur disposition. De nos jours, nous sommes en train de faire la biométrie d'ici le 31 décembre 2022, que tous les permis non biométriques ne soient plus valables. Ensuite, l'immatriculation des véhicules avec les codes sécurisés, code QR. Cette activité est bien en route dans notre pays dans le cadre de la sécurisation des biens des populations, mais aussi le renouvellement pour savoir combien de véhicules dans le parc guinéen se trouvent en train de circuler dans les normes et quels sont les véhicules qui ne sont pas dans les normes, parce que nous savons que les accidents de la route font aujourd'hui plus de victimes que le paludisme et le VIH. Donc, ces dispositions sont en train d'être prises en compte dans notre pays et que ces éléments pourraient aider d'autres pays encore à compléter le rapport de notre co-rapporteur. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Guinea. Mauritania, have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Bien sûr, je félicite le co-rapporteur pour la clarté de l'exposé qui a été fait et le projet de loi, plutôt de convention. Toutefois, le problème de la sécurité routière est multidimensionnel. Il y a en partie ce qui dépend des infrastructures, mais surtout ce qui dépend aussi des véhicules et des personnes. Je ne vais pas m'étaler sur tous les aspects, mais je crois qu'au niveau institutionnel, il va falloir interdire à ce que l'Afrique soit une poubelle pour les anciens véhicules qui ont été totalement amortis en Europe et aux États-Unis et qu'on continue à les laisser s'exporter chez nous. Il faut qu'au niveau de chaque pays, on interdise au niveau de nos pays africains l'importation de véhicules, mais surtout on demande à nos partenaires européens aussi de refuser à ce que les véhicules en état totalement défectés et amortis ne soient exportés en Afrique. En Afrique et aux États Caraïbes. Donc ça, c'est pour nous, c'est un partenariat qui doit exister. Nous, à notre niveau, on interdit, mais eux aussi, ils ne laissent pas parce qu'il y a tout le temps on a des passe-droits qui se font. La corruption chez nous, on laisse entrer des véhicules qui sont totalement défectueux au niveau de la douane, mais il faut que nos partenaires aussi agissent, qu'on fasse à ce que nos partenaires agissent à leur niveau pour interdire eux aussi l'exportation des véhicules au niveau des ports. Merci.
Thank you very much for that contribution. And I'll give the floor to Ghana.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the report ably presented to the floor. In fact, I have sat and listened to the various contributions to the report, and I am inclined to agree that the way to go is to have our laws enforced to the latter. Now, if you talk about road accident or accident in our roads, in various African countries, we have laws, we have regulations that guide the use of the road. But the issue is, are we enforcing those rules and regulations? Now, in most countries, we have a licensing regime regulated. You have roadworthiness being regulated. Sometimes you see some vehicles on the road. There is roadworthiness certificate on that particular vehicle. And you wonder whether the law regulating the roadworthiness is being implemented. Now, talking about salvage vehicle or the vehicle being imported to Africa, being overage vehicle, some are salvage vehicle. We have laws that regulate that. But yet you see some vehicle being imported into various countries in Africa, and you wonder whether the laws passed by the country is being implemented. Now, on part of the law enforcement agencies, we talk about corruptions. In most of the African countries, we have laws that forbid corruptions, yet it is happening. So I am inclined to say that the way to go to avoid accident on our roads is to ensure that the various laws that we have in our various countries are being enforced to the latter. And I believe strongly, if we enforce our laws, we'll be able to reduce accident on our roads. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Ghana. Thank you very much for the contributions that you have made. And I see, this lively debate is very interesting and everybody is making good contributions that will enrich our resolution. But I think for the sake of time, also we have some other agendas to discuss. Please make it as short as possible and don't repeat the suggestions that has been made. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, please. Is there somebody here who has been raising his hand, her hand? The white paper. Yes, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'était juste pour restructurer un peu le débat. On l'a déjà mentionné. Il y a 3 facteurs de cause d'accident de la circulation. Il y a l'état du véhicule, il y a le conducteur et il y a l'état de la route. Et effectivement, il y a des législations sur ces 3 facteurs. Le seul problème, c'est l'application de ces législations. Il y a des propositions qui ont été très factuelles. Par exemple, réduire l'importation ou empêcher l'importation des véhicules en mauvais état, mettre des contrôles sur les permis de conduire, faire de la sensibilisation en amont et investir dans les infrastructures routières en termes de balises et de signalisation. Donc, c'était vraiment structurer un peu les recommandations pour les classifier en fonction des causes d'accident. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, colleagues. As I have said it, there are good contributions. And as you know, this is the beginning of the discussions that we are having. So we'll be continuing our debate in the joint meeting. And I wish you and encourage you all to come up with some more additional points to raise. And that will help to enrich that. And I congratulate the rapporteur also for the excellent presentation again. And all these contributions will be taken into consideration. So I move to the next item on our agenda. That's item number 4. Colleagues, under this item, we will exchange views with Mr. Carlos Manuel dos Santos Serra, Director of the Environmental Education Cooperative Ripansar, on the subject matter of access to water in the context of worldwide drought and climate change. I now open the floor to members to make their comments on this subject matter. Gabon, you have the floor, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Au point 4, nous n'avions pas de problème d'accès à l'eau, mais par contre, nous en avons suffisamment beaucoup. Je voudrais participer au débat sur le point concernant les changements climatiques. Le Gabon a mis en place en 2018, juste après la COP 21 de Paris, le mécanisme traceur. Ce système a pour but de contribuer à la préservation de la faune et de la flore du pays. Il est constitué de deux entités que sont le Forest Resource Management, qui fait de l'aménagement forestier dans le bassin du Congo depuis 30 ans. Brain Forest, une organisation non gouvernementale gabonaise qui est spécialisée dans tout ce qui est gouvernance et respect des droits des populations au Gabon. Le principal défi du plan opérationnel Gabon vert, de concilier les besoins des générations actuelles avec ceux des générations futures. Seulement, le conflit homme-faune risque de compromettre les efforts de conservation de la biodiversité engagés dans notre pays. La situation du conflit homme-faune au Gabon est une situation où les populations payent le lourd tribut à l'avantage de la conservation internationale. C'est ce défi que nous tentons d'inverser. C'est pour cela que le Gabon a appelé l'organisation sous-régionale, la CAC, et les Nations Unies à l'aider à trouver un meilleur mécanisme, ce qui a permis l'organisation de la Semaine africaine du climat du 29 août au 2 septembre 2022 à Libreville, à l'invitation du gouvernement gabonais. La Semaine africaine du climat a permis de comprendre le fonctionnement de l'action UB sur les domaines d'action prioritaires pour accélérer la mise en œuvre des décisions du pacte de Glasgow pour le climat et de l'accord de Paris, notamment le renforcement de la résilience face aux risques climatiques, l'accélération de la transition vers une économie à faible taux d'émission, le renforcement des partenariats pour résoudre les problèmes urgents. On peut dire ici, et il faut bien le rappeler, deux choses. D'abord que le Gabon, à travers son chef, son Excellence Ali Bongo Ondimba, qui conduit le groupe des négociateurs pour le compte du continent africain, a permis cette grande concertation des représentants des gouvernements, des chefs d'entreprise et des membres de la société civile. Cette concertation visait à consolider la position des États africains avant la COP 27 de novembre 2022 prochain à Sharm el-Sheikh. Ali Bongo Ondimba a déclaré à l'occasion, je cite, « L'heure est venue pour les Africains de prendre leur destin en main », c'est dire l'engagement fort auquel il appelle tout le continent à se mettre ensemble sur les problématiques des changements climatiques. Nous avions entendu des collègues ici tout à l'heure demander comment pouvait-on faire pour accéder à certains mécanismes. Le Gabon a la chance et le leadership du Gabon dans le processus de changement climatique démontre à suffisance nos avancées. Nous sommes dans un processus de financement avec la Norvège qui a mis en place, après les accords de Paris de 2015, le processus du Fonds vert. Le Fonds vert norvégien aujourd'hui accompagne le Gabon déjà à hauteur de 11 millions de dollars sur une durée de 3 ans. Donc, ce processus a démarré en 2021, il se poursuit en 2022 et il prendra fin pour la première phase en 2023. Cela veut dire que si l'on met un peu de sérieux dans ce que nous faisons, si on met en place des mécanismes qui permettent justement de montrer que l'on peut avancer, on peut aussi commencer à recevoir les subsides liés à la neutralité carbone. Enfin, hier, je me souviendrai encore de la demande d'un collègue ici à la Commission des affaires économiques qui demandait si nos pays avaient déjà légiféré sur les changements climatiques. Je voudrais ici répondre par l'affirmatif que oui, pour le compte du Gabon. Le Gabon, en 2021, le chef de l'État a pris une ordonnance que le Parlement a ratifié dans des délais assez express, de façon à doter le corpus législatif gabonais d'une loi qui permet aujourd'hui de mieux apprécier les problématiques liées au changement climatique. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Thank you very much, Gabon, for that contribution. And I give the floor now to Mauritania. Mauritius, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would like to join Gabon to tell them that we also in Mauritius, we have amended the law with regards to climate change. And we are very, very well conscious about it. As Mr. President, we are witnessing more and more extreme weather events. Higher than ever temperatures, droughts, fires, and floods are causing unprecedented challenges across the globe and a heavy toll on human life and material damage. I take this opportunity to express my government sympathies and solidarities to the population affected throughout the world, throughout the ACP, Caribbean, African, Caribbean, Pacific countries. And recently, we have seen how flood has been affecting Pakistan. The COP27 gives us another chance to globally agree on and commit to yet unprecedented measures to keep the temperature rise below the 1.5 degrees targeted. But our responsibilities is as leaders and as a representative of the ACPs is to secure and ensure that our future that our children are secure and refrain from any action that is tantamount to ecocides. And the access to climate finance is essential to address these existential threats. Mauritius is keen to implement its nationally determined contribution, which is estimated to cost us around 6.5 billion USD. Despite the huge costs to our economy, Mauritius has pledged to finance 35% of the projects. And we now are appealing to international community to support us for the remaining part. But the financing for development project in small island development states like Mauritius, like Solomon Island, like Vanuatu, should be demand-driven and based on prevailing economic conditions, especially in the light of the budgeting stress created by this pandemic of COVID-19. And Mr. President, we are also committed because we have also to address the inequities. And in this respect, when we talk about the UN development system together with our development partners should use a unified compass and a refined and more comprehensive vulnerability index, which accurately captures the small island development scale vulnerabilities to prioritize allocation of funds and increase the funding of development activities. Ocean-based economies, we have been talking since yesterday about the blue economy, and even in Mauritius, we have a minister of blue economy. And I have been mentioning it yesterday, these economies, the blue economies is being deeply affected. Restoring the health of our ocean is crucial to preserve our biodiversity, community livelihood, and climate resilience. Negotiation for a binding global treaty to end plastic pollution and consensus reached on banning harmful fisheries are important steps in the right direction to turn the tides and make our ocean healthy for our sustainable development. Mauritius is committed to protecting our ocean, and in this context, it announced during we had the Lisbon conference, ocean conference, the creation of an MPA around the Chagos Archipelago. We invite states, NGOs, and other stakeholders to support this initiative and assist in the creation and management and enforcement of the marine protected area, which will be among the largest in the world. Mr. President, here we are all facing this, like I've said yesterday, it's important that we act now. If we don't act now, we have the chance to make the difference for our children, because whatever be other priorities of any of the government of the ACP, the priority should be climate change, because we are talking for our survival now, Mr. President. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mauritius. And now I give the floor to Botswana.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity to share Botswana's views on this very important topic of access to water. I think we can all accept that as a resource becomes scarce, there's competition for that resource, and the consequence often is that those who have will get it, and those who are vulnerable, poor, will have very limited access to that particular resource. Botswana accepts or takes the position that access to water must be without discriminatory practices. That is, there should be equal access to water, especially potable water, and offers three possible points or considerations to this House to consider as we go home. We can talk about access to water from the international level, great policies, and we think we have that. But the question is at the national level, what are we doing? And we're proposing the following. First of all, land settlement practices, that the rules and policies around that. I think over time, we have seen that people with resources, with money, with perhaps who see water as something you can claim for yourself, have been allowed to settle at or close to water sources. This was not, at least in my country, a traditional practice. Water sources are supposed to be for everybody. It's a common good, and you settle away from it so everybody can have access to it. But we see that now the common practice is actually to settle very close to water sources, closing out those people, vulnerable people and vulnerable population. And we propose that we have a more careful look at how we settle populations, closing out other users. Another policy that we are thinking about, that we propose to this House to think about at the national level, is really licensing policies around tapping underground water. We know that it's very expensive to access underground water, and as this resource becomes scarce, only those with money will be able to actually tap water underground. And unless we have policies now for the future, we'll find that there are people who own water and people who don't have access to water at all. The last one we talk about really is about the policies around distribution of potable water, because often we think only urban centers are entitled to have distribution of potable water. But at the end of the day, if these utility corporations are actually getting money from taxpayers, from resource, from diamond revenues, from gold revenues, whatever it is in your country that's actually is funding the country. The question is, why are poor people in rural areas not entitled to potable water, but somebody in the city is? So we put these three proposals to the table. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Botswana, and I cannot agree more than what you have said, regarding the distribution fairly and equitably to the rural areas, where they are denied. Thank you for that contribution. And now I give the opportunity for Niger. You have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, vous touchez du doigt un problème qui est très important de mon pays, l'accès à l'eau potable. Nous sommes un pays du Sahel, comme chacun sait, et qui en plus est frappé par le dérèglement climatique. Donc, dans mon pays, le gouvernement en place a mis des moyens importants pour que l'accès à l'eau potable soit une réalité, non seulement dans les zones urbaines, mais aussi et surtout dans les zones rurales, et que ce soit un accès qui soit supportable en termes de coût. Donc, il a été mis en place une structure, et nous avons, en fonction de la nature du terrain, parce qu'il y a des zones où c'est des zones de socle, où il est très difficile de forer, et il y a des zones où il faut forer très en profondeur. Donc, selon la nature du terrain, il a été mis en place une politique de forage, ce que nous appelons, nous, multi-villages. C'est-à-dire, on fait un grand forage, et à partir de ce forage-là, on essaie de ravitailler beaucoup de villages aux environs. Donc, ça, c'est une politique dans laquelle mon pays s'est engagé de manière forte. Et au niveau du dérèglement climatique, chacun l'a dit ici, nous sommes nous sommes en fait ceux qui subissent le plus les contre-coups de ces dérèglements climatiques, alors que nous n'en sommes pas responsables. Les pays développés qui polluent, qui dérèglent la nature, sont ceux-là même qui s'engagent sur des montagnes et qui ne décaissent pas. Et qui, plus est, nous amènent à prendre des décisions, qui font prendre des décisions de nature à nous limiter dans notre développement. Parce qu'on interdit l'exploitation des énergies fossiles dont nous avons besoin pour nous développer nous, mais dont eux-mêmes, aujourd'hui, sont en train de se tourner vers d'autres énergies. Donc, il est important qu'à ce niveau, par rapport au dérèglement climatique, Monsieur le Président, et ça a été dit fortement, et ça a été dit également à Strasbourg, que le principe de pollueur-payeur soit marqué d'un fer blanc, que ceux qui polluent le plus soient ceux-là même qui payent. Sinon, on voit des intentions qui sont données, mais en termes de décaissement, on n'a même pas 5 ou 10% des montants prévus pour être décaissés qui le sont réellement. Donc, il est important que par rapport à ces deux sujets qui sont des sujets clés pour nous, l'accès à l'eau potable et le dérèglement climatique, vraiment que des mesures fortes soient prises. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Niger colleagues. I know that the issue of water, availability of water, and the climate change is a subject deep in our hearts, and we'll continue discussing this issue as long as time allows. But let me remind you that we have initiated the discussion and we'll be dealing with that in our joint meeting. So please be as brief as possible, so for the sake of time. Thank you. And now I give the floor to the DRC. You have the floor.
Merci, Honorable Président, pour la parole. Honorable Président, je voudrais préciser si l'accès à l'eau, la République démocratique du Congo conserve à peu près 52% des réserves d'eau douce de l'Afrique. Et à travers son Agence nationale pour la promotion des investissements, il encourage les investisseurs à se donner plus ou à investir plus dans les sous-secteurs de l'eau. Sur le plan climatique, sur le changement climatique, Honorable Président, la République démocratique du Congo est consciente du rôle du premier pas joué par son écosystème forestier dans l'équilibre de la biosphère au niveau tant international et continental que national et même local, et est disposée à assumer les responsabilités qui en résultent. C'est pour cette raison qu'elle a ratifié et continue à ratifier beaucoup de conventions et accords, et s'est engagée en conséquence à harmoniser les lois par rapport aux dispositions pertinentes de ces instruments internationaux. En date du 3 octobre dernier, les ministres de l'Environnement d'une soixantaine d'États se sont réunis à Kinshasa, au Palais du Peuple, le siège du Parlement congolais, autour des thèmes habituels des négociations sur le climat, adaptation, atténuation, finances et pertes et préjudices, pour une réunion préparatoire visant à appeler les pays riches et pollueurs à assumer leurs responsabilités et aider les pays en développement, c'est-à-dire mettre la main à la poche. Honorable Président, l'Afrique n'est responsable que de 4% des émissions mondiales de gaz à effet de serre. Et on séquestre davantage qu'elle n'en émet. Et elle aura de plus en plus de mal à opérer un choix entre la lutte contre l'extrême pauvreté qui la décime et la lourde facture à payer pour l'adaptation au changement climatique. Si les pays industrialisés ne lui offrent pas l'alternative technologique et financière conséquente. Au cœur du bassin du Congo, la République démocratique du Congo, c'est un pays solution. En plus de ses ressources en minerais phares, de la transition énergétique, cuivre, cobalt, lithium, etc., l'immense pays d'Afrique centrale a quelques 150 millions d'hectares de forêts tropicales. Comme dans mon territoire de Bongandanga, dans la province de la Mongala, à Yangambi, à Kwilu, à Maniema et partout ailleurs. Et pourtant, nous avons des forêts denses, tropicales, ce qu'on fait un poumon vert capable d'absorber le carbone et contribuer à la lutte contre les dérèglements climatiques. Nous avons besoin d'oxygène, honorable président. Nous avons besoin aussi de paix, j'ai dit.
Thank you very much, Democratic Republic of Congo. Now I have got in my list 3 speakers, and that will be the end of it. I hope you will help me including that this topic. And so I'll give the chance now to briefly present their views. First, Cameroon.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, une fois de plus. Je voudrais signaler que le problème d'eau est une question de vie, de survie, c'est un droit inaliénable. Et le cas du Cameroun est très contrastant. C'est une Afrique en miniature où il y a un bassin important hydrographique et la partie sud, qui est la partie forestière, a suffisamment d'eau. Mais la démographie galopante, comme l'a souligné Madame tout à l'heure, pose un problème de redistribution et d'approvisionnement en eau dans les grandes villes. Maintenant, dans la grande région du nord septentrional, qui ressemble à la partie sahélienne, comme au Niger, comme au Mali, il y a un problème suffisant de manque d'eau. Et cela pose un sérieux problème pour l'agriculture et l'élevage. Il y a des efforts faits par le gouvernement. Il y a tout un ministère qui a été consacré à l'eau et il y a toute une société qui a été consacrée à la gestion de l'eau dans les villes. Mais seulement le point le plus intéressant pour la résolution du problème d'eau, c'est dans le cadre de la décentralisation. Le Cameroun est un État décentralisé et avec la venue du Sénat, des conseils régionaux et des communes, nous résolvons progressivement ce problème d'eau dans nos parties éloignées des grandes villes. Et vous allez voir que les communes et les conseils régionaux mettent un point d'orgue sur l'approvisionnement en eau. Et je crois que progressivement, nous allons résoudre ce problème d'eau. Maintenant, la question qui se pose avec nos partenaires européens, c'est parfois eux les pollueurs, c'est parfois eux les exploitants des forêts qui détruisent les nappes phréatiques et c'est eux qui exploitent les mines et en même temps ils détruisent les nappes phréatiques. C'est à ce niveau-là justement qu'il faut se poser des questions dans cette commission. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Cameroon. Vanuatu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your diligent chairmanship. We having heard quite a number of moving statements on climate change, and particularly the issues of water in the context of climate change around the African continent and perhaps elsewhere. We would also wish to make statements in context of this agenda. And that is first and foremost to express our appreciations to the voices of Kenya, Suriname, Sierra Leone, and Niger on climate climate change matters this morning. And therefore, to allow me to express our affirmative support for a proposal for a totally new standalone agenda on the climate agenda item. But more so to express our support for an urgent resolution on global challenges of climate change, because climate change is an existential threat to all the ACP countries, as we have heard. And in this regard, Mr. Chair, in keeping with the decision of the 114th ACP Council Administration, Vanuatu would like to insert to the following paragraph into the draft compromise motion for the resolution in this 42nd session of the ACP-EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly. And I quote that the Parliamentary Assembly should urge the EU and OACPS countries to adopt a UN General Resolution at its 77th session for an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice on the obligation of states under international law to protect the rights of people and individuals of the present and future generations against the adverse effects of climate change. An end of quote. Mr. Chairman, perhaps we in Vanuatu had to do deep in the wisdom behind our initiative. Our initiative is the initiative of the communities of Africa, of the Caribbean and the Pacific. We are a small country that climate change affects our GDPs. And therefore we are inclined to say that the current framework and the current ambitions don't assist us. The targets of measuring climate change in degrees does not help us. It should be measured in humans' lives affected, which is the sort of challenge we are facing with the modern day climate changes. Vanuatu is a small country, was colonized by France and Britain. It overcame this colonization by our leaders took their cue from African leaders that overcame colonization from the likes of Samora Machel, Jomo Kenyatta, Nelson Mandela, and many others. And that's the sort of wisdom that we are taking this matter to the International Court of Justice. There are different ways to take these issues to court, but we need to be smart and effective. Because as the distinguished member of Niger said, it is the same monster rearing its head again. And we do not know, but it's going to affect our communities in a bigger way than the colonization times of our forefathers. And therefore, we need wisdom and champions of the likes of these famous leaders of Africa, the Julius Nyereres and Samora Machels and many more that have been the limelight of even the Pacific countries becoming independent today. And this is what we would like to thank Africa for giving us the light and showing us the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vanuatu. We take note of what has been said. And finally, I give the chance to Ivory Coast. Be brief, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Rassurez-vous, je serai bref. Monsieur le Président, mon pays, la Côte d'Ivoire, on n'a pas de problème d'eau en termes de disponibilité de la matière. Mais nous avons un autre problème, c'est le problème de l'orpaillage et clandestin. En effet, Monsieur le Président, il y a un lien entre l'orpaillage et le problème d'accès à l'eau. Parce que les orpailleurs clandestins polluent les cours d'eau, surtout dans le milieu rural. Alors que dans le milieu rural, la plupart des gens ont besoin de ces cours d'eau pour se servir. Mais aussi, nous avons des animaux qui ont aussi un droit à l'accès à l'eau. Alors, si nous ne sommes pas aidés, si on n'a pas de mesures efficaces contre l'orpaillage clandestin, je parie que la plupart des pays africains, en tout cas qui possèdent des minerais, sont confrontés à la même difficulté. Donc, je voudrais qu'on mette l'accent sur la lutte contre l'orpaillage clandestin, non seulement qui dégrade l'environnement, mais qui pollue les nappes phréatiques des cours d'eau. Mon intervention, c'est à ce niveau-là. Il faudrait qu'on ait une stratégie commune de lutte efficace, parce que même l'orpaillage clandestin aussi est un autre danger, non seulement pour l'environnement, mais aussi c'est le terreau de toutes les criminalités réunies. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Ivory Coast and colleagues. I thank you all for the excellent contribution that we have made, and I encourage you to continue our debate and come up with more concrete proposals in our joint meeting. And thank you. And then I move into item number 5, where we will be dealing with any other business. Any other business? Are there any other matter we wish to bring to the attention of our EU counterparts under any other business? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Guinea-Bissau. We'd like just one point of clarification regarding the amendments. This morning, we talked with the Secretariat regarding the amendments, and we were told that we should wait for the drafters to come with a compromise motion so that the different regions can have their comments on the text. So I would like to confirm that if by today we could have that compromise text, so that either later between 6 to 7 p.m. or early morning, we can have ECOWAS can have their meeting. Could you confirm that, please? Because we're going to have the conciliation meeting on Monday with the European Union. I thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That will be taken care of, and there will be some announcement regarding these issues and other similar issues. Okay, another person? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have a request of if the Secretariat could assist us to register for any other business to take the floor in the joint meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other person, speaker? No, I see none. So we move to number 6, the date and place of the next meeting, and that will be announced later. Thank you. So we go back to our own agenda. Is that so? Yeah, we go to our own agenda, item number 5. Item number 6. Is that 5 or 6? Number 5, yeah. Any other business? Any matter under any other business in our own agenda? That's number 5 we're dealing with. I see no. I see none. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
this is Uganda. I would like to request that under AOB, any other business, we could consider having the serious issue which is confronting Africa now, maybe other continents as well, the issue of child mothers arising from COVID-19. Several families had daughters of 9 years, 10 years, 11 years, 12 years getting pregnanted during that time of the lockdown. Now, this has become a serious pandemic. Every home has a little child taking care of another child. This is a serious matter which this forum cannot ignore. And I think this is the right committee which can have this matter discussed. While we talk about access to clean water and so on, when we have social problems in our own homestead, there is no way that we can normalize our society if we don't have this matter addressed at a very high level. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Then I will conclude this issue saying that we'll take note of what has been suggested and we'll consider that in our joint meeting. Thank you very much. Moving to item 6, and that deals with place and time of the next meeting. And this will be announced later on. Thank you. So we move now to our own agenda, and that will be dealing with agenda number 5. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
So no announcements maybe from the
Yeah.
secretariat.
So we finished it, huh? Thank you. Okay, finally, then we have some announcement from the secretariat.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe now, after that light moment, just to make a few announcements. The first issue relates to an invitation to the members to submit topics to address at the next session. And I do note that I think the submission that has been made by Uganda is one topic that we could consider for the next session. So would like to just invite members if they can submit topics that can be addressed in the next session. Chair, if you allow, maybe I can pause to just check if there are members that would like to propose any topics for the next session.
Yes, please. No comment? Okay. Thank you very much.
Then, okay, I think Surina wants to take the floor.
Yes, till when can we submit our proposal? Till when can we submit our proposal? That is one. And taking the floor, I would thank the chair and our vice president of this group for chairing this committee. I know you are the first chair, and I thank you for taking the Caribbean head to do that. But the excellent way you did, Mr. President, my compliments for that. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll seek more additional information as regards the timing of submitting the proposals and etc. For the moment, we don't have that information. Colleagues, I thank you very much. Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, I have 3 more announcements to make. The first one relates to the agent motions for resolution. We have 2 agent motions for resolutions on the following topics. The first one relates to global challenges of climate change cooperation for adaptation and mitigation in the wake of COP27. The co-rapporteur is Honorable Andre from Seychelles. And I believe this is the question that was asked recently recently relates to this item. So in terms of the circulation of the compromise text, again, I think we'll make an announcement, but we've taken note that since the conciliation meetings will be held on Monday, we have to circulate this text as soon as possible. The second motion is on ensuring market access for OACPS commodity producing countries through enhancing sustainable consumption and production patterns. The co-rapporteur for this is Honorable Delamani of Eswatini. So as mentioned, the conciliation meetings on these agent motions will be held on Monday, 31st October at 8 hours to 10 hours. These resolutions will be distributed shortly. And I'm looking at my colleagues from conference to ensure that they circulate the resolutions. They've been circulated. Not for this meeting. Okay. Then the second announcement relates to the workshops. There are 2 workshops that are foreseen. Workshop 1 is on disaster risk management and reduction, which will take place in Boan village in the south of Maputo province. The second workshop is on health. It's a health workshop on the experience of Mozambique in managing COVID-19. And this will take place at Maracan village, which is located north of Maputo city. It's Saturday. It's Saturday. Saturday. I think it's Saturday. Yeah. So understand that the Secretariat will circulate the registration form for these workshops during our meeting. And again, I'm looking at conference services. You've circulated. Okay.
They will have it at the end of maybe at the entrance somebody will put it while they are
Okay.
from there.
Can we get a confirmation? They haven't been circulated. Sorry? But not the registration form. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll try and circulate them now, but we'll also put them at the exit so that as you go, maybe you can pick them up. Yeah. The third.
Yes, please, yes, please. Yes, please, yes, please.
I think the list, we think it's the attendance list, but we can see there is a workshop on it. But it's not mentioned
Silence,
workshop
please,
1
silence,
and
please. We
1, 2.
cannot hear. Silence, please.
Ivan, I think Frederick has he has shared the attendance, but it's written a workshop on it. Les ateliers de for 29 October. Can see,
Yes.
Get orders so that I
Yeah, just a minute, please, please. Order, order. We are about to finish. Just a minute. The information is not yet over. Please listen to the secretariat, okay?
So
people are talking there.
So the workshops are supposed to be held on Saturday, 29th of October from 16 hours to 18 hours. My understanding is there was a form that was circulated, but I see conference services is actually going around the table circulating them. So please be patient with us. If you don't have them, he's coming to you. Then the last announcement relates to dinner and reception. 2 events are foreseen. The first one relates to the dinner. Please note that the Speaker of the Republic of Mozambique, Her Excellency Esperance Human Bias will host an official dinner on 31st October 2022 at 19 hours. This dinner is restricted to heads of delegation. So the first is a dinner that will be hosted by the speaker, which will be held on the 31st of October at 19 hours, and it's restricted to the heads of delegations only. The second announcement relates to the reception. A reception will also be hosted by the mayor of Maputo on the 1st of November. This reception is open to all participants. Details of this event will follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Dear colleagues, it has been an honor and pleasure for me to chair this meeting, and we really conducted very enjoying and very fruitful discussion, and I look forward for the joint meeting that will be conducting on Sunday. Thank you very much, and keep up all the contributions that you have been making. Thank you again. Thank you for your cooperation.